will fast track the process. So they were shared across to members, and almost all of them were passed. Of the 300, at least, I'm aware that at least 200 of them were passed. Some were signed into law, some were not signed into law. So it's not as if the National Assembly has given a blind eye to some of the inadequacies that I'm pointing out. But it's a continuous process. I brought out that example just to highlight the fact that we are not yet there in terms of the security architecture, that we are not yet there to confront the rising criminality that we have on our hands today. The way it is, the armed forces, I think between the military, what do you call the army and the Air Force and the Navy, they are now up to 100,000. I think they are about 77,000. The basic responsibility of the armed forces is to protect our territorial integrity. But because of the enormity of the insecurity in the land, they have been diverted to come and keep security within our borders. A role that is supposed to be preserved for the police and the sister agencies is now being taken over by the army. So if we have a problem, a challenge now, what do you do with that number that is insufficient to? Because even with that number, you can see that it's not enough. Virtually, I think up to 30 states. I'm not sure about the number. I think, but it's up to 30 states. Not less than 30 states. You have the military posted there for one form of intervention or the other. This is not supposed to be so. This is supposed to be the work of the police.
All right, Mr. Distinguished Senator, you mentioned the fact that in the developed nations, 1 police to 400 citizens.
That's the recommendation of the United Nations.
That's the recommendation from the United Nations.
Yes.
And now here in Nigeria, we have 1 police to
1,000.
To 1,000.
Yes.
And is not a possibility that we can have more of these personnel? I heard recently that there's recruitment for more personnel. Don't you think, because we are below the United Nations standard, there's a need to, as a distinguished senator, bring up that matter on the floor so that we can increase it and even make it 300 to 1 policeman if possible? Because I think that is where the challenge of security is pointed at.
Well, let me just let you know, I will re-emphasize the fact that we as a democracy, we operate a separation of powers. There are certain things that are in the domain of the executive arm of government, one of which you are suggesting. You can't stand on the floor and direct the recruitment. You understand? You cannot stand on the floor of the National Assembly and say, I want police. You can bring it as a motion, but as you well know, motions are merely persuasive. They don't have the force of law. And motions have been brought. By the time I left the chair of Rules and Business in the House of Representatives, over 70 motions have been brought on that floor on the issue of insecurity alone. Now I'm in the Senate. Hardly a week goes by without a motion trying to address the insecurity in the country. So the National Assembly is sufficiently bothered about what is happening. Understand the police.
Let's go for this short break, and we'll back so that you can give justice to this. As chairman of Rules and Business, thank you. Please, after the break.
The question of leadership is a factor in this regard to the success of the fight against the Boko Haram terrorists. And then you look at also the factor of morale.
Welcome back. This is Television Nigerian, and this is a very special program with a distinguished senator on the Patriot. Thank you very much. Distinguished Senator, You mentioned that you were the chairman, House Rules and Business, and quite a number of these applications. What is that again that you said?
Motions.
Motions coming in. I'm not a senator. I'm not a distinguished senator. Maybe someday I can become a senator.
We'll call them resolutions.
Resolutions. Okay. So, who exactly is responsible for signing these laws? You said quite a number of these laws have not been passed. And then if we bring more motions.
No, what I said about bills is that when a bill is passed by the National Assembly, it has to be assented to by the President before it becomes law. Yeah. No matter the beautiful work you do at the National Assembly, if the President does not append his signature, if you go to Section 58 of the Constitution, he insists that the President must sign it before it becomes law. So we've done some of those things that have not been signed by the President. So that means we have to start all over again. That's what I mean. As for the motions they end up in resolutions. The House, if we pass a law and it's signed, if we pass a bill and it's signed into law, it becomes the law of the land when the President signs it. In that case, there's nothing you can do other than to obey it. If you don't obey it, the law will take its course. But as for motions are merely persuasive. So as you can keep bringing it, if they don't want, when it suits them, they implement. When it doesn't suit them, they look the other way. And there's not much you can do. You cannot take them to court on the basis of a resolution of the National Assembly. Okay? So we have, like I said, in the last assembly when I was in the House of Representatives and I was chairing the Rules and Business Committee, by the time I left, there were over 70 bills, motions, not bills, motions that ended in resolutions trying to resolve the issue of insecurity. Now I'm in I'm not yet a year in the Senate, but I'm telling you that hardly a week goes by without having at least one or two motions trying to address one form of insecurity here or there, consistently. At a point, in the last assembly, at a point, we even called all the security chiefs across the country, all of them, to a closed-door meeting to try to find whether, what exactly is the problem and how we can fit in to help resolve the problem. It took about 3 or 4 hours indoors. But after that, things continued. The then 8th Assembly leadership, made up of the Senate President and the leadership, convoked a National Security Summit. And they all came, and experts too came, tried to provide solutions and all of that. But here we are again. The Senate President is talking about convoking another, security summit. As you may have heard, 2 weeks back, the Inspector General of Police was with us in the Senate, and we had an indoor meeting to try to listen. What came out of that is that they are now talking about community policing as a way to try to help.
I was coming to that.
Okay,
so now that's good, that's beautiful. That's a development. You are Senate House Committee Chairman or Vice Chairman?
Vice Chairman on Judiciary,
Legal Matters and Human Rights. Okay. Thank you very much, distinguished Senator.
Yes.
Now, the proliferation of the policing, the community policing, outfits that have erupted recently. Amo Tekun, and then Shege Kafasa in the north, and then in the east, I also heard that some of the there's an established one again, and then somewhere in the north central, and the rest of them. What is your opinion regarding this community policing as it relates to the fight against insecurity in Nigeria?
First, I should say that the fact that you have this organization springing up in itself is a validation of the position of those who have said that things have run amok as far as insecurity is concerned. We are incapable of, and like I told you from the beginning, I cited Section 14, subsection 2B. The security and welfare is the primary responsibility of government. So when you reach a position that either some, and by the way, we are practicing, even though we are practicing the federation, the constitution forbids state police, meaning that the whole structure of the police is controlled from Abuja. But when you have a situation where segments and even private individuals are organizing their security, it means that there's something wrong. But the matter is complicated because what the police IGP is bringing out as community policing is different from Amotokun and the others that you are calling. Okay, his idea is that you community police constable, or I've forgotten their appellation, but they will be recruited. I think about 50 per each local government. They will be recruited and from those localities, and they'll be operating within the locality. The presumption is that coming from that locality, they know the environment inside out, and they'll be in a position to. My disagreement with that project is that
which other projects?
This one that has been suggested by Inspector General of Police. Okay. My disagreement with that is that one, you are giving these people uniform. They'll be wearing uniform within the community, and you'll not be paying them. Unless they change their mind, what the Inspector General says that these people will not be paid. You recruit people, pay them, give them uniform, don't give them arms. Of what use is that? My understanding of community policing before now was that the police will be interfacing with members of the community to get intelligence information, and then they will move in. You involve the community. Maybe they'll be having meetings between the police and members of the community who will be selected to be interfacing with the police. And if there's any information they give. But if you now give people uniform, you are increasing the extortion points within the community. Because once you give somebody uniform, and especially you are not paying him, what you are asking him is that with that uniform, he can extort money here and there. I don't think that will resolve the issue.
So
that is my personal opinion.
It's all right. So, distinguished Senator, does it mean now, or is it rather very correct to say that you are not comfortable with the arrangement that the IG police has brought up?
In the format that it has come, I don't believe that it will resolve the issue.
Now, what about Amatokum? The formation to which Amatokum has come up? Is it right to say that Amatokum is coming up, Operation Shege Kafasa is coming up as a challenge
all of this
to the federal government, that the federal government is maybe failing to provide security? So Amatokum, which of the systems do you really agree with? Is it right to say it was a challenge?
You see, if the federal government had done its own part very well, there will be no point for Amatokum or all of these other community stuff that is coming up. If somebody feels sufficiently protected, I don't think they will look for their own protection. The fact that they are looking for their own protection is a loud testimony to the fact that we as a government have failed to sufficiently secure the citizenry. Okay? Yes. So that's why I felt that if instead of allowing this organization to come out, you would have encouraged the communities to form kind of vigilantes to live side by side with the police.
As spies?
Well, we don't call them spies. We call them, to gather intelligence. If you call them spies, I don't think it's a healthy way to start calling somebody a spy. Yeah, so the police will be getting intelligence report, and the community will know that if there's something, we can always throw up the culprits or the suspects over to, give them over to the police. But the moment that you recruit people and call them community police constables,
and you give them uniform. Without arms.
Yeah, with time, they will alienate themselves from society, just like the current police people are not too well seen in the public eye. And then if you are not paying them, you are asking them with that uniform to extort. Because they were arrested and extort. And again, they don't have, you see, the sophistication of the criminals in our society today is such that I can't see how an unarmed person will go and confront these people, unless they are mere pickpockets or so. Otherwise, if they are the violent criminals, how can you, the community police officers who are not to be given any arms?
All right, we'll come back shortly after. We'll come back to you. Well, at this point, let's take a look at the journey that began 5 years ago when President Muhammadu Buhari took the first oath of office on May the 29th, 2015, where he made the fight against insurgency and corruption as part of the cardinal objectives of his administration. How has this administration fared in the fight against insecurity and insurgency in Nigeria? Take a look at this mini documentary and join us again.
Nigeria, largest oil producer in Africa and sixth largest in the world, is rich in natural resources like natural gas, tin, iron ore, coal, limestone, niobium, lead, zinc, and arable land. But despite this endowment, the country's growing population, while it's in poverty, while its misfortune is blamed on corruption. When President Muhammadu Buhari took over the mantle of leadership on May 29, 2015, he vowed to combat corruption in Nigeria, no matter whose org seeks gold.
Corruption is a hydra-headed monster and a cankerworm that undermines the fabric of all societies.
This was clearly indicated in the arrest of Colonel Dasuki, retired, the then National Security Advisor of President Jonathan, who was charged to court by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over the massive scam in weapons and defense procurement that led to the misuse of 3 trillion naira defense budget since 2011 under the guise of fighting the notorious Boko Haram menace. 5 years later, the president's anti-corruption drive is yielding laudable results, redeeming the country's dented image in the eyes of international communities. Corruption is the greatest obstacle preventing Nigeria from achieving its enormous potential. It drains billions of dollars each year from the country's economy, stifles development, and weakens the social contracts between the government and its people.
President Muhammadu Buhari as a person has begun a fight. At least if you are going to a journey, you need to start. At least the man has taken a giant step. In fact, in the history of Nigeria, there is no any president that has fought this way.
In 2012, Nigeria was estimated to have lost over $400 billion to corruption since independence in 1960, indicating that both past military regimes and civil administrations are culprits of corruption. An assumption of power, President Muhammadu Buhari declared anti-graft war against all forms of corruption in Nigeria, which has remained top priority for his government.
Our frontline anti-corruption agencies, namely the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC), the Code of Conduct Bureau (CCB), and the Code of Conduct Tribunal (CCT) have become revitalized and more proactive in the pursuit of perpetrators of corrupt practices, irrespective of their social status and political persuasion.
His administration has worked more closely with the US, the UK, and various Middle Eastern countries to seize and repatriate assets from public officials that are suspected to have been purchased with illicit funds. Nigeria's leading anti-corruption agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, has also become more active. The Anti-Graft Agency has launched a series of investigations into former high-ranking public officials from previous administrations, former cabinet officials, state governors, and senior civil servants with more sent to jail. He set in motion the Treasury Single Account to regulate the level of accountability and transparency in the financial resources of the government.
Effective application of TSA and the bank verification number BVN, we have been able to remove 23,000 ghost workers from our payroll, thereby saving billions that would have been stolen.
Buhari has made it difficult for corrupt officials to perpetrate their acts of corruption. This is a strong warning to corrupt officials and enemies of Nigeria that the quest to rid Nigeria of corruption is a task that must be done under the present administration.
Muhammadu Buhari is trying his own best to redefine the system of the corruption. He tries his own best to make everything in order to wipe all the bad leaders that they already put Nigeria into the system that is not in order.
The anti-corruption fight is a success. Nigeria is being launched from the era of corruption, when corruption was a political culture, to this era the president has made anti-corruption and evidence-based leadership.
Welcome back. That was a documentary on Buhari's fight against insecurity. Distinguished Senator, sir, you have watched the documentary, and the documentary reveals the intention of the present administration and what he has done to fight insecurity. You know, so looking at the documentary, how proactive do you think this administration has actually fared?
Okay, so in 2015, when Buhari was campaigning to win the presidency, I was also a member of the APC then. And part of the campaign was that President Jonathan had failed to secure the nation, and he was incapable of securing the nation. And therefore, we needed somebody like Buhari who would come and make the place a better place for all Nigerians in terms of security. At least 5 years down the line, the question is, how well have we fared? What is left for all to say? As far as we are concerned, in a lot of ways, we have more insecurity on our hands now. That is, you know, Boko Haram were occupying territory. Now they are said, it is said that they are no longer occupying territory. That is the best that we can say. Other than that, they are still killing people. Others,
they have been free to. Repentant Boko Haram, they have been free to. They have been free to.
Yes.
What is your, as you answering that question, how do you react to that?
Well, I don't know. Truly, I'm not a security expert.
No, because
I know that.
The question is, if you have repentant Boko Haram,
yes,
it means that you are reducing the number of those Boko Harams who are killing us. I don't think that way is also trying to stop.
Theoretically, you could say that, but I want to gauge it in terms of what is happening on the ground. The killings are going on in their numbers, and so whatever that may have been happening behind the scene, behind the curtain, the average Nigerian will judge matters by the practical example that they see before them. People, even in that, every day you hear of Boko Haram killing and killing. People have been abducted, you know, and all of that. So we are not yet there. I'm not saying he's not trying, but the truth of the matter is that the security situation has gone worse. When the debate came on the floor, the insecurity debate came on the floor of the Senate, you could see that there was condemnation across party lines. It wasn't a partisan thing, because when these criminals come, it doesn't matter to them whether you are APC or PDP, whether you are a Christian or Muslim, whether you are this tribe or that tribe. They kill. They are ferocious. They are terrorists. Okay, so the condemnation was across party line. Yes, and everybody was very angry. That contributor was very angry because the situation appears to be getting worse.
So what will the president do?
What
should he do?
I wish I knew. You see, a lot of people have been calling for change in the leadership of the security, these armed forces that they have overstayed. In some climes, I'll give you an example. In some climes, if there is a plane crash, the minister responsible for aviation will resign, even though he has no direct responsibility for that crash. So if you have a situation where these people have been, presiding over these agencies, and the fight appears to be, we appear to be losing the fight. It's just a matter of honor that somebody should say, no, let's have fresh blood in there. Maybe they will come with ideas that we don't have. So, but here people stick to their jobs and they don't want to leave.
Okay, now that brings us to the question of a very important question, very distinguished senator. In a leaked memo by the National Security Advisor, General Mungono, accusing the Chief of Staff to the President for usurping his powers, Abakari. As a distinguished senator, in your own opinion, what do you think that leaked memo, the consequence of that leaked memo, in terms of helping to fight the insecurity problem or helping to fight, the insurgency and the success that they would have registered?
When I first read about that, I was expecting that you have a strong denial from the presidency that no, that memo is not from somebody will deny. But up to now, we have not heard any such denial, meaning that there's credibility to the fact that there was such rumor, such a memo that was written and was leaked later. Well, let's not forget that the First Lady has some time back warned us that the president was elected by millions and millions of people, but the government is now being run by a very tiny group of cabal. That's the way she put it. And what is coming out now appears to be a validation of the fears of the First Lady, which is very serious because we elected the president and posterity will hold him responsible for whatever happens now. If it is good, it will be attached to his name. If it is bad, it will still be attached to his name. So it's unfortunate when, from that memo, it appears that some people are usurping even the powers of the president. They are not accountable to the people. So whatever happens will not bother them. But the president's name will be attached to whatever happens now. So it's unfortunate. I just wish that somebody will come out and give us more explanation. But the optics are not good, if you ask me.
So is it also very correct that the leaked memo would have informed whoever is supposed to do what in terms of fighting security? Don't you think the memo would have helped?
Well, I've answered that one. I think it's not healthy for our nation because if you read the memo, the clear implication is that some persons are usurping the presidential powers. If that is the case,
in this case, who are the people that are accused?
No, Chief of Staff. Clearly, the memo says the Chief of Staff that he's giving directive directly to some of the service chiefs. Some of the directives are not even coming from the president. That's what the memo is telling us.
And the memo is saying that the service chiefs are also receiving the instruction and following it?
They are following it. That's what the memo says. So if that is truly what is happening.
As a lawyer, very distinguished senator, as a lawyer, is it very correct that the Chief of Staff will give orders to a military? And of course, with my understanding, the Chief of Staff does not have a military background. What is your take?
I've already said that, one, that is not right. I was expecting that somebody would come up to say that no, what is in the public domain as a memo from the National Security Advisor is not true. But nobody has denied it, meaning that all of this is true, which like I've said, is not good optics for our nation. The memo clearly indicates that sometimes without even the say-so of the president, the Chief of Staff will sit and write to the service chiefs. That is not correct. But it only validates what the First Lady had told the nation some time back, that even though it's the president that has been elected, some other persons have taken hold of the government. Like I said, it's not palatable.
It's all right.
Yes.
All right. Distinguished Senator, your final word to Nigerians on the fight against insurgency. What should we do?
Well, insurgency, fighting insecurity is everybody's fight. It's not just for the security people. Like a radio advert will say, or GNTA will say, if you see something, say something. Because it is very, very important that we report whatever we see to the security agencies, because they are not They are not ghosts, they are not spirits. They have to be told before they can move in. Okay, so in as much as we are not satisfied with what is happening, we too have a responsibility as ordinary folks. We have a responsibility to report because it's everybody's fight. Sometimes, I mean, nobody expects to walk into insecurity scenario, but you do all the same. So if you don't, if you say it's not your responsibility, maybe you'll be the first casualty in this day.
The IG of police has actually brought a model to follow, giving them uniforms. They call them
community police,
community constables.
Yes.
You don't pay them. Give us exactly your last words on that.
I've already said that that is not ideal, and I totally disagree. I believe that even though the concept is good and the intention is good to fight insecurity, but with what I see, with what I've, unless they modify it later, with what I know they plan to be doing now, it will not work, or it will work minimally. Okay, you give people uniform, you don't pay them, you put them in a community, and you don't give them arms. How are they going to fight insecurity?
And when the Boko Haram attacks,
you know, it's not just Boko Haram alone. All sorts of these militia groups, these other violent criminals that have AK-47, and you expect an armed person, because he will be the first target. Because wearing uniform, they will know
you're a police.
You're a policeman. You will likely get them. So I don't think it has to be rejigged. Otherwise, I don't see how much far that can take us.
All right. Thank you very much for this beautiful opportunity that you have given to us, very distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It's been a pleasure being here.
I have been speaking with the distinguished Senator Barrister Emmanuel Okejev, a serving member of the Senate in the 9th Assembly and a member of the ECOWAS Parliament. Maybe next time we'll bring you here to talk about the ECOWAS parliamentary systems and talk about it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is the much that we can take on this episode of The Patriot. Join us again on this platform for another interesting engagement with a patriotic Nigerian. Until then, be patriotic. I am Peggy Shande. Thanks for watching.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria.